Hello and welcome to this PixieBrix stream. Hello, Todd.
Hi, Anders. Thanks for having me on.
Todd, you were here yesterday as well. Are you okay being back so soon?
I think so, yeah. But the shirt's definitely getting a lot of use out of it. What
Did
about
you
yourself?
didn't watch it?
Well, it's hopefully Stino didn't make us sweat too much during the interview.
But we were.
But
I'm going to make you sweat today, and you
yeah,
promised me I can do that. First of all, Todd, what is PixieBrix?
yeah. So PixieBrix is a tool that anyone can use to modify the websites that matter most in their personal and business lives. So we're a low-code browser extension builder where you can install our browser extension and then modify any website that you use by adding buttons, hiding things that you don't want, adding triggers. Today, I'm going to be showing off one of our great new features on actually building customizable side panels for any website that you use.
So PixieBrix is a lot about productivity. Is that right? How you can optimize, and you're also tapping into the RPA space as we talked about yesterday, and we're looking forward to see how we can improve productivity with PixieBrix. Todd, shouldn't we start the action and then I will welcome the users while you prepare your desktop?
Yeah, absolutely. So today is all about sidebars, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a sidebar that you can use when studying for different RPA certifications. So as Anders mentioned, we're a great complement to RPA like Power Automate, UiPath, Automation Anywhere. And so this is a sidebar that I threw together to help me keep track of my learning Power Automate. And so it has some great things like being able to trigger a search over to the Power Automate forum, being able to create flashcards for myself that I'm going to be able to log into a Google Doc, as well as some of the quick links that I find useful. And then also as I go through the modules, being able to keep track of notes for the different modules that I'm working on. And so then as I switch between these modules, I can see kind of what is that different content that's happened there. And then be able to export my notes also out of the PixieBrix admin console. So
Cool.
that's a quick overview, but there's going to be a lot of ground to cover today. So very excited.
Looking very much forward, Todd. And S is with us again today. Bonjour, bonjour. I think he's French. So hello to France here from Denmark. And Todd, where are you placed in the world?
I am based out of Boston, Massachusetts. I spent about 7 years in New York and then moved up to Boston in February.
Cool. Yeah, I remember from the last stream you said you moved, so from New York or something, right?
Yep. Great. So let
So,
me. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, this is the case today. You had to get started with Power Automate page.
Great. Yeah. So we're going to be working with the Power Automate page. In particular, we'll just be working with this one getting started lesson that has each one of these has a different series of modules. So you have like these different units. And so there's also some other categories in here as well. So Microsoft's Learning Portal has a bunch of different courses, many of them about Power Automate or the Power Platform. And so what we'll be working with today is building our own panel, our own personalized panel for as we study for this content of keeping track of information, getting some additional context and other things. And so you can see here, this is the PixieBrix extension that when you install it, you now have this PixieBrix icon that can trigger this sidebar on any page. Right now, I don't currently have any panels on this page. And so that's going to be the goal of this live build today, to build out our own personalized panel for when we're studying about Power Automate. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up what we call the PixieBrix page editor. And there's a couple ways to do that. One of those is to right click on the page and then click inspect. And so if I do that, I will open up the Chrome DevTools, and one of those tabs in there is the PixieBrix page editor tab. The other way that I could do that is if you prefer keyboard shortcuts, you can hit F12, and that's also going to open up the DevTools. And so now I have my PixieBrix page editor tab. So if this is the first time that you're running PixieBrix on a page, it's going to ask you to grant permission for PixieBrix to access and be able to edit the page. I've already done that as part of my pre-demo setup. But inside the page editor, you can see that there's different options for what we want to add to the page. And so we have the ability to add native looking buttons to pages. We have a context menu. That's what appears when you right click on the page. We actually have a quick bar that can appear on any page. That's a great way to trigger different actions, different parts of the web. We have a sidebar panel. That's what we're going to be focused on today. And then we also have triggers that can respond to events like different elements appearing on the page, different keyboard events, different mouse events, or even your own custom events that you define. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Sidebar Panel. And so now I can see here that I have a new sidebar panel on the right here, and it's defaulting to an example document built with our document builder. And so I can start going ahead and customizing this. The first thing I'll do is give our extension a name. And so I'm just going to call this my Power Automate sidebar. And then I can also go ahead and change this heading that's going to appear in the sidebar. So I'll call this my Power Learning.
And while you type, Todd, is this PixieBrix, is this free?
Yep. Yeah. PixieBrix is free for individuals and small teams. And so we charge for more business features like permissions, audit logging, certain error telemetry things, but free for individuals and small teams.
So if you out there want to build the same things as Todd do today, you can download PixieBrix for free and do the exact same thing here.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So just hop over to PixieBrix.com and then just click Start for free. It will ask you to connect your either a Google account or a Microsoft account, and then it will walk you through the onboarding flow of installing the extension and getting started.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Todd.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So here I have my the start of my Power Automate Learning sidebar. I can see now that I have my header. So I'm going to click on this render document. I can see where these things are being rendered from. And so for example, I can click over in this preview view and then start editing the text that I'm seeing here. And so I can call this Todd's Learning sidebar. And you'll see that it updates in the preview, but it doesn't update here. If I want it to update the kind of what I'm actually seeing in the sidebar in real time, I can toggle on this auto render piece. And so the reason why that's not on by default is that, let's say I'm actually going to be doing some API calls to fetch information as part of that. Obviously, with certain APIs, they might be rate limited, or maybe there's like a cost associated with the API. So by default, we don't automatically render for every single change you make. But for now, as I'm just kind of styling things out, I'll turn that on. And so you can see just like a normal like text editor or whatever editor, I can start playing around with the formatting and really personalize it to kind of my own personality style. So maybe I can change this, and you can see start styling things out.
Cool.
You can also see kind of what's happening under the hood here, where as I click these different buttons to customize the style, it's applying different kind of just different tags or CSS classes actually on what is style of this particular header element.
Could you, Todd, if you and I were in the same company and we used PixieBrix and you built this cool flow, could you give it to me easily, like sharing it in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. Can cover that a little bit later. So let's say I like this. You can see here that there's sort of this red disk icon because I have some unsaved changes. So what I can do is I can actually go ahead and save this. And there's a couple different ways to share. I can actually share from the extension console. So if I hop over to this options page here, here's my MS Power Automate sidebar. All I would need to do is click share, and then I can share with the different teams that I have, and choose who to share with. So it's sort of like sharing like a Google Doc or a Microsoft Office document. You can kind of share with your set of teams as well as share with multiple teams if you're on multiple teams as well.
Cool, thank you.
Great. So now this is saved, and so the next thing that we might want to do is add some more elements. So here we just had some example text. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this text. If I want to add a new element to the document, I just click on the container. So you can see that the document is really made up of, there's a container, and then there's rows, and then there's columns within those rows. And so inside this column down below, maybe what I want to do is I want to add an image, right? So I'm going to go ahead and maybe I want to add like the Microsoft logo. So let me find a Microsoft logo. I don't know if anyone has a favorite spot for logos. That one looks pretty good. I'll copy the image address. So often a good way to find image logos, right? Just find an image online, just click copy image address. So if I hop back here, click on my image, I can paste in the image URL, right? And now this one happens to be a little bit smaller than the other one. I'd have to find the other one, but I can adjust the height, I can adjust the width. Maybe this one is like 200. I guess this one has like a lot of padding in it, but so now I have my logo in the sidebar. And if I want to, let's say I want to actually move this logo up above the other one, what I can actually see is this is a preview view that we default to, but we also have an outline view where you can see what is the structure of the sidebar that I'm currently working with, right? And you can see that there's that container, and then there's a row where the first row has the header and the second row has the image in it. And so if I wanted to switch these around, I can just drag this up, and now my image is up above. And so it's really fun just to play around with what are the different styles that you would want to have. So kind of hopping back there as well to the preview, I can also do things like add margin or padding, right? So what margin is it's sort of the area around the element, whereas padding is what is the area inside the element. And so you can see as I added padding, it's going to add some spacing around the text, whereas the margin is sort of the area outside of the element. We can also do things like border, as well as kind of either right align or left align the text as well. And so you can really personalize kind of what you want your information to look like and your sidebar to look like without having to write any code, right? So at this point, I haven't written any code. And so kind of the next thing that I want to do while learning is I often find it helpful to have a set of quick links available to me. And so to do that, there's different ways to do it. You saw the text element before, right? So let me go ahead and add a row here. We have the ability to just add kind of headers, text, images. Cards are more of a layout thing, as well as we can also repeat elements as well. So I could add text, but what I'm going to do in this case, though, is I like writing lists in Markdown and writing some resources in Markdown. I think that's an easy way to kind of format things and organize things. So what I'm actually going to do in this case is I'm going to add
what is Markdown, Todd?
Yeah, so Markdown is, I guess you could call it a language, but it's a way of kind of adding styling to text. Where if you're just writing in Notepad or other things, it's not really programming because there's no kind of control flow or language, control flow or logic. It's just sort of it just kind of applies formatting to kind of the plain text that you've written. And so I'll become a little bit more clear in a second when I actually start writing it.
Sure.
And so here I have, what I've done is I've added a brick. And so in PixieBrix, kind of where we get our name from is that we have all of these different pre-made bricks that give you superpowers. And so some of those can perform actions. So things like running a YouTube search. So we'll see some of that in a bit. And then some of it's things like pulling in information as well as also rendering information. And so when I've added this brick, I can now see over here on my extension overview that now there's a section that corresponds to this brick. And so I can actually go ahead and add some content in that section. And so you can see all of the different things that PixieBrix provides. So we provide ways to extract information, collect input from the user, automate things, right? So including calling into UiPath, automation anywhere, pushing data off to Zapier, transforming data, integrating with different services, collaborating with other folks on your team, storing and retrieving data, modifying a page. We now have support for control flow, so if and else, looping over things, error handling. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show or display some information, and I'm going to use our Markdown brick here. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And with Markdown, the idea is you can write any text that you want to, and that's valid Markdown. So this is, maybe I want to call this quick links. So you can see this here, and then you can also apply simple formatting rules. And so one of those formatting rules is you can define headers by putting the pound symbol there, and based on how many pound symbols are next to it, that's going to describe sort of how big the header is or what level that header is. And so I can create my quick link sidebar here. And then Markdown is also great because it has nice support for lists and other things as well. So I can have like a list with item 1 and 2. So you can see that this is all, it actually formats it with the bullet points on here. Or if I want a numbered list, I can actually change this to be numbers, and it's going to give me a numbered list for an ordered list. And
it looks a lot like the language that we see in forums all around the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of forums use it. GitHub use it. Really, the world sort of has standardized on it. I think there's different what are called flavors of it, where sometimes some tools will go above and beyond in terms of what formatting they support. But there really is a core set of different things that they support. And what's cool about it is also, right, you can see here that, like, I just typed the number 1 once, right? It's just really that 1 is signifying that this is an ordered list. And so it's keeping track of the numbers for me, so I don't have to maintain like what is the ordering of the list. And so with this quick links reference, what I'm actually going to do in this case is I'm going to grab a couple reference points to create some links in here, just so I have some information, right? So maybe what I can do is I can call this like my Power Automate learning portal. And so Markdown also supports links, where I can provide the kind of the name of the link and then also the URL of the link. So now I have this URL to the learning portal. Maybe there's also some other great content that I want to link to, because I find myself going back to it a lot. So Anders has actually some great Power Automate content. So I want to bookmark his Power Automate page as well. So I'll hop back here. You can see I've already visited this one. And so now I have a sidebar that has different quick links, right? And even this is pretty valuable, right, in terms of learning resources for different members on my team for different sites that they need to be on for helpful links. And so in order to control, for example, like where this sidebar actually appears, you can see when I've added this, it defaults to just looking at what is the root domain of the site that I'm on. So this sidebar is actually going to appear whenever I'm on a docs.microsoft page. So if I go to kind of the main learning portal and then expand this out, my panel will be there. If I want to restrict this to only show up when I'm in the learning modules, what I can do is I can take the part of the URL, or like the base part of the URL, and then just put that little asterisk after that. So now my side panel is only going to appear on the learning module pages for docs.microsoft.com, right? So I could have a different sidebar for the Microsoft Learning Docs, the different sidebar for if I'm learning Automation Anywhere, a different sidebar if I'm learning UiPath. And save that. And so if I hop over to kind of the root docs URL, right, my panel's not going to be here because I've set up the rule to only show up when it's actually on the learning modules pages. So that's pretty cool, right? So I've created a sidebar. I can add some styling. I can add some rich content to that's going to be useful to my team when I share it. The next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to add some actions that I can trigger from this sidebar panel. And so the first action that I'm going to add is the ability to run a search in the Power Automate forums. And so the Power, like, I think a lot of the different vendors have forums. We also have our own forum as well. Have forums where you can learn more about the platform and also ask questions. I think the Power Automate one was running a little bit slow for me today and yesterday, but I think it's powerusers.microsoft.com, and then here I've just pulled up kind of what is the search page, right? And so if I type in a query here, so you can kind of see how this page works, where there's sort of this root search page, and then as you search for a query, again, it's running a little bit slow today, you can see that the query that I typed in it's this root page, and then the query ends up showing up in the URL under this Q field. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some quick actions to my document to be able to quickly run a search. So let me grab that here. I'll add another row to my document, and in here I will add a button, right? And you can see my button show up here. I'll click my button and go ahead and style it. So we have different variants. So we have things like I can make this an info colored one, I can make it look more like a link, I can make it look more like an outline. In this case, I'm gonna do that and rename it to search forum. And you'll notice on this left-hand side, so I have this brick section that corresponds to this content we put here. And I also now have a section over here in our overview for attaching different actions to this button. And so what I'll do here is, in this case, I'm gonna use our open a tab deck, because I'm going to be opening up that Power Platform tab.
I just saw a button named add items to a UiPath queue. Does that mean that we can add items? I don't know, it's not what you're talking about now, but
yep.
Does that mean that we can add items directly to an orchestrated queue from this brick?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you wanted to wire this up, you could make this brick either run a bot directly, you can add it to a queue. Kind of what I'll be showing later also is you could actually fetch information from your UiPath orchestrator and show it in the sidebar. I think that's actually a pretty common use of our sidebar, is to try to overlay some information about an ongoing process. So for example, we have folks that use our sidebar to trigger automation in either UiPath, Automation Anywhere, Power Automate, and then also use that sidebar to show where are they at in the queue, is the task done yet, what is the result of that task. And so in a situation where you're either sharing bot runners, especially, or dealing with queues, or maybe there's some long-running tasks with that involve business processes over multiple days or multiple people, the sidebar ends up being a great way to surface that information on any page.
Cool, thank you.
Great. So in this case, I'm gonna paste in that oh, that's the wrong URL. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that root URL of the page. And so I have my root URL, and then I have this spot here for passing in different parameters. And so we know that this particular page uses that queue. And so if I just wanted to run a test here, now when I click this button, right, you can see the URL up here is that message and then also data, which is what I just hard-coded into that field. So again, their page is running a little bit slow, but you can see that.
We can say hi to Thomas. Hello, Thomas is joining, and he asks us if everything is going well. I think so. Everything is going really well. Thanks for being here, Thomas, and to everyone else, of course.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. So now I have this root part where it's going to open up, and I'm actually going to change this name here to run. New tab, and I'm going to go ahead, and often what I find when I'm learning things is I actually just want to run a search for things that I have selected on the page. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a brick that's going to read the data about what is the current thing that I have selected on the page.
So I can mark something like a word or 2 words with the mouse, and then I can search for that, but directly with that button.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So I can be reading with this panel open, then I can highlight some stuff. So maybe I want to learn more about Microsoft OneDrive, right?
Cool.
And so in this case, so the way that, and so this is now, at this point, right, I haven't written really any code. And then now we're going to start getting into a little bit more of the no-code aspect of PixieBrix. And so you can see here that I've added this selection reader, and what the selection reader does is it's going to pull in information about what I have selected on the main page. And you can see that on this right-hand side, this is what we call our data panel. And so the data panel shows information around what inputs were passed to a brick, what is the output of the last run of the brick, as well as trying to give you a preview of what does that data look like. And so you can see here that right now on this preview, I have Microsoft OneDrive selected, and it's under this variable called selection. And so this variable called selection, I've defined up here, it actually defaulted to this, where I can define what is the name of what we call the output key of a brick, so that I can refer to this brick's output in other bricks. So in this case, I have this selection, and this particular brick provides a selection text, which is what I have selected on the page. And so I can this is the information that I actually want to pass to my search. And so I'm going to click this copy button here, and that is going to copy that path over. And so you can see that this changed here. And so what I'm passing is this property name, which is Q, and that's hard-coded. And then I'm passing in a variable for what I'm actually passing for my search query. And so I can actually go ahead and give this a try. So if I select Microsoft OneDrive and then click Search Forum, you can see up here in my search, it's now saying Microsoft OneDrive. And so I can find all of the chatter around Microsoft OneDrive for that particular one.
There it is.
And so this is a really great way to quickly kind of grab information off of things. And so I wanted to also, like, this is obviously running on running a search on the community site, but I could also, if I wanted to, just tag on another one where we already have some pre-made bricks for doing YouTube search. And so I could actually paste in that selection text, but maybe I wanted to provide some additional search terms as well alongside of that. So like, obviously YouTube doesn't know necessarily that I want OneDrive in the context of Power Automate. And so what I can do is, in the last case, what we did was we passed through the variable directly, but PixieBrix also supports text templating. And so if I use these double brackets here, now what I am actually working with is a text template. And so I can put in the variable, but then I can also put in any other hard-coded terms that I want to. So in this case, maybe what I'll do is I'll also type in Power Automate. So now I have a button that, based on what I have selected on the page, when I click, it's actually going to open up 2 tabs. It's going to open up the Power Automate forum. Then it's also going to run a YouTube search for the thing that I had selected, as well as the word Power Automate. So that's really powerful, right? Because you can start customizing things to the different kinds of technologies that you're trying to learn. So I'll go ahead and save this.
And we got S with us with a lot of questions. Thank you, S. I'll make sure that Todd gets them right after this build, and I'll make sure that he will answer each one of them.
Perfect. Great. So that's a button, right? We've learned so far is we've learned how to add a button to a document, grab some context from the page, such as the thing that I have selected, open up a new search, pass in a variable, as well as also use text templating in order to craft my search. So the next thing I'll do is actually show, often when I'm studying, I like to keep track of flashcards. And so flashcards have like a front and a back. Then I also want to track kind of where I've created that flashcard. So I'm going to hop back here. I'm going to click on Render Document to get back to my preview. And in here, I'm going to create another button. And what this button is going to be is it's going to be create flashcard. And what I'll do today is I'll actually use a Google Sheet to keep track of the flashcards that I'm creating. And so when and you can see here that we have one button, now we have another button, so I can start wiring things up to that. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is to create a flashcard, I'm actually going to show myself a form where I can customize what is the content of that flashcard. And so here we have a category called collect input. And the most powerful way to collect input is actually creating your own form in PixieBrix to collect some information from the user. So I'm going to go ahead and click add here. And so you can see now I'm actually in what we call our form builder, where I have a preview of a form over here. And there's different fields I can configure. Just to kind of give this a test run, I'm going to click create flashcard. And you can see that my form is going to pop up over the page with the example field that's in there. And so what I'll do is I'll start customizing this form. Maybe say this is going to be the front of my card. And I'll change this input type. So we support all different input types. In this case, I'm going to do like a paragraph text. Then I'm also going to add another field for the back of the card. So I'll call this one back. So make that paragraph text. I'll change this to say create card. Now I have a form that popped up that says the front of the card, the back of the card, and then a button that says create card. What's cool also is, so when creating flashcards, right, I probably want to be able to copy and paste information from the page. So maybe, for example, I want to create a card based on kind of keep these important concepts in mind. Oh, and the other thing I'm actually going to do in this case is let's actually also grab the selection of what I have selected, right? Because I'm probably like highlighting something and then wanting to capture some notes about that. So I'll add another selection reader here. So I'm going to read the selection. Call this one flashcard selection. And I'm going to wire that up as being, so I can click between these different fields to choose them. I'm going to wire that one up as being my default value for the front of the flashcard. Now when I try this, I have the front of the flashcard, and then I also have the back here. And so the problem though, right, is this is over the screen, so I can't really copy and paste things. So we actually have an option for, do you want to show the form over this, or do you actually want to show it as a panel in our sidebar? And so I'm going to switch this location over to sidebar. And so now when I do this, it's going to show just kind of, it's going to create a new one over here. I can see the name of the form here. And that's going to allow me to, right, to actually copy and paste some of this information over into the back of my card. Right, so now I have a way to grab information about the card. You can see once I click submit, the form goes away. And you can see that there's this green check next to the form saying that I actually submitted the form. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to wire up this to actually add sheets to a Google Sheet. So I'm going to hop over to Google Sheets. I'm going to create a new spreadsheet. And so let's call this flashcards. And I will do, let's say we want to grab like a URL, then we want to do the front of the card, and we want to do the back of the card. Hop back over to PixieBrix. And I go to store and receive. We can see here that we have an add Google Sheet row action. So I'm going to go ahead and add this brick. And you'll see I got a selector here for Google Sheets. So I'm going to go ahead and select my flashcard sheet. Can select my tab name, and it's going to auto-populate what are the different headers in that sheet. And so to get the URL, what I can do is I can go back to my original sidebar panel, and there's some information that flows through here automatically. So what is the URL that I'm on? What is the description of the page, the title of the page, etc. In this case, I'm just going to grab the URL, paste that in, right? So I'm just going to be passing in the variable directly. And then for the form, you can see here that my output key on this is form. And then I'm just going to reference these field names for what to pass through. And so I'm going to have form.front, form.back. And then I'm going to do a little bit of confetti just to celebrate kind of what's going on here. My favorite's always confetti, and then also I really like using the sound effect brick. I don't think it'll come across on the live stream, so I won't add it, but that's always one of my favorites to add, especially now that I'm working from home, right? You can kind of have more fun with that. So now let me go ahead and select some text. So like Microsoft account for this, right? I'm seeing my selection there. I see the back of the card. And so I don't know what to write here, but hello from PixieBrix. Create this card, and you'll see the confetti. So that means that hopefully this would have worked. So if I jump over here, I have my flashcard in here, right? So I have my URL, I have my front, and I have my back to that card. So now I have a really great way to actually, on any page in these modules, to go ahead and create flashcards off of things.
So that's really cool. We can just save data, like we can select data, add data with a form, and then pass it directly to Google Sheets or Excel.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Or the UI path, or Automation Anywhere, or any of those as well, right? And so often I have some other, I sort of love productivity tools. I use some great Mac apps called like Drafts and OmniFocus and all those others. So often I use that for also sending other things into my ecosystem for stuff. Even sending stuff off to Notion maybe, or other tools that you use for learning and team collaboration on knowledge bases. So we kind of have another couple paths that we can go now. I want to be kind of mindful on time. So kind of other things that we can cover sort of when we're doing the search form, we had to actually kind of select this and then click the button. But what if we could actually just have the sidebar show relevant content or like even search results or more information without even having to run the search? So just kind of updating automatically in the sidebar based on what pieces of information that you had. So actually, I think I've already voted. That's what we're going to do first. And then we're going to actually kind of cover how to also just be able to take notes on any page and just have them appear directly in the sidebar as well. But so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of take what we started here and actually make it just so seeing live data in our sidebar based on the context. So great. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to hop back to our document, and I'm going to add another row to my document. And because I want to show some dynamic data, what I'm going to do first actually is kind of show off sort of.
Can I create my own bricks if I think that one is missing?
Yep, currently you can't do that in our point and click interface, but we do support creating your own bricks. And so like, for example, the YouTube brick, what that is it's just wrapped around the open up a new tab brick. And then we've already figured out sort of what does a search query look like on YouTube. But the way that enterprises really like to use us, right, is to actually build up their own internal marketplace of bricks that are relevant to their business processes so that different folks can come in and use those bricks. So what I'll do here is I'm going to add this brick here. So now I have another brick section down below. And I'm going to grab the selection again. And so the reason why I'm grabbing the selection multiple times is like when I click the button, I want to actually get the selection at the time I click the button, right? And so that might be different from when the sidebar originally showed. And so I'm just wanting to get the most recent information off of that. And so I call this one search selection. And what I'll actually do in this case is, and you can see here that says I haven't really attached what we call a renderer yet. So I'm not actually showing anything based on this. And so what I'll do is I will go ahead and show this markdown here. I'll grab this selection text. Right, and so you can see as that now this is showing here, and this is what the text that I had selected. And so by default, though, the way that our panels work is that by default, you can see here, if I go back to the sidebar panel and I go to the panel refresh section, the default trigger is that our panel is going to refresh every time the page loads. Or if you're thinking about sort of modern websites, they never actually like fully refresh the page. They just navigate, but they don't actually you don't see a full kind of tab reload. And so the default trigger is to update whenever the page loads or the page navigates. But we actually have some other triggers that you can use. One of those is that the selection changed. So we can actually re-render the panel every time that I click on a different thing on the page or select some different text. We also have one for state change. So probably won't be able to get into that today, but PixieBrix allows you to actually keep track of kind of your own custom information about that page, and then use that to coordinate between different extensions, right? So we might have a sidebar, we might actually have two sidebars, we might also drop some buttons on pages or some triggers. And so you can really build kind of full-fledged capabilities onto any web page. And kind of the other thing that we introduced for that as well is sort of defining your own custom events to control when different triggers run or when panels reload. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this over to selection change. And so now whenever I select something else, you can see as I select that this is updating live, right? And so I can see what is the current selection that I have on the page. And so now this becomes very powerful because as I select different things on the page, what we're going to do is we're actually going to run a search based on what I currently have selected, and then show the live results based on what I have selected.
Without us having to click anything.
Yeah, without us having to click the button, right? So I can instantly see, are there any, in this case, we'll use a Google search results page API to see what are the Google results about this term. And so let's hop into here. So we have our selection. Let me actually just go ahead and select some more meaningful text here. And so what I'll do is we have all these different things for integration. So I could actually pull data from a Google Sheet if I wanted to. I can call any API that I'd want to. We have this HTTP request brick and also a get brick. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use our fetch Google results brick. This particular one, it uses a service called SERP API, it stands for Search Engine Results Page API. You can grab a developer account. There's also other vendors. I know Bing also provides their search result API for free. You just have to register. And so the idea is that this is going to take what you would see on the Google results page and actually return it back as structured data that we can work with. And so I'll show, hopping back here, you can see here that it says, and now I'm actually going to toggle off this auto render. The reason being, right, that now I'm actually like tying into an API that might be rate limited or whatever else. There might be either throttle or there's a cap on things. So I'm only going to run this, actually want to run this, not just like live reloading stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this search selection one, I'll take OneDrive for business. I'm going to do kind of what I did on the YouTube one, where I'm also going to add in those terms Power Automate. I render this, you can see it's thinking here, right? And then I can see what the data is that came back from this. And so it came back with 8 different results. And in those results, there's a title, there's a link to the search result. It's also showing the snippet that Google would show about this result, etc. And so now what I can do is I can take these results and then display them in any number of ways. And so I'll kind of run through a couple popular ways to show things.
And Todd, I'll just interrupt you in 10 seconds because if you viewer out there, you are here, you just joined. This is Todd from PixieBrix, a really, really cool browser extension. Todd is showing us all the nice things, and you can build them yourself because PixieBrix is free for you if you're a private user. You can just go to PixieBrix.com and download it. And we want to welcome Catalog Addict. He says, hello, everybody. Thanks a lot for you out there watching. I'll let Todd continue the show.
Great, thanks for joining. Yeah, so we're at this point where we've changed our panel to update on every selection change. So as I click around the page, and then we're now working on a section where, based on what I have selected, it's going to automatically run a Google search in the background and then show me what are the results about Power Automate for that selection. And so here's my preview of the selection. I have the different titles and links. And so now what I want to do is down here, I want to show what that actual data is. And so I'll do is I'll change this to be search results for. And what I'm going to show off here is the ability to actually, within our text templates, the text templating system that we use is called Nunjux. It's kind of just like how Markdown is a standard in terms of kind of structured text like I'm doing here in terms of numbers and other things. You see it in forums, you see it in a lot of tools, from marketing tools to developer tools to everything for rendering text, as well as like note-taking tools. Nunjux is really kind of implements the standard for how people do text templates, right? So text templates are generally, you have these double brackets, but the nice thing about Nunjux is it also can supports logical conditions as well as looping. And so if I want to do a loop and actually loop over all of the results, what I can do is, instead of doing these double brackets, I'm going to do a bracket with a %, and I'm going to do for record in results, or actually let me call this result. And then I'm going to end that with a end for.
And if we want to learn this language, Todd, can you repeat what this language was?
Yeah, it's called Nunjux. We have on the PixieBrix documentation page, we have a lot of great tutorials that covers this. And on the homepage of our documentation, we actually have a section called Templating Language Guide. And so this is going to run through how to get started with writing templates, because they can actually be very powerful. You can use them for conditionally showing text. Here I'm going to show how you can use it to actually just dynamically create a list. But very powerful and really useful across all the tools that you use. Like it's used very frequently in marketing automation tools as well. Because if you think about it, kind of or mail merge or those sorts of things. So a very useful kind of, when we talk about kind of PixieBrix bringing a great fit with robotic process automation, we've been really intentional about choosing technologies that are going to transfer over to and skills that are going to transfer over to the other tools that you use. Whether they're the RPA tools like UiPath, Power Automate, Automation Anywhere, or like some of those other automation tools in the marketing space or business operations space. So now what I can do is I have this, I'm going to loop over each result in results. And I'm going to now, inside of here, I'm going to do the result and the title in this part. And so you can see now I'm back to these double brackets, because I'm just going to insert what is the result title, and then what is the, let's see what it was. I think it was called result.link. Result.link. So let's give this a try here. And so now I have search results for OneDrive for Business, right? And you can see it come back with, this is my list of 10 results. And it's based on that search of whatever I have selected plus the words Power Automate. And so let's give this a try as I click around. Maybe what I learn, like maybe I don't know what Microsoft lists are, right? I can click that, and then it's going to automatically run that search.
That's cool, so, Todd. And we can click these links.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if I wired this up correctly, let's learn more about this. It's going to open up in a new tab, and now I can instantly get to, okay, here's how you can automate a list in a list.
This is
like
really cool,
SharePoint.
Todd. I would definitely use that.
Yeah, so awesome. And you can see that I just typed the number 1 here, but because Markdown is great, what it's doing is it's automatically applying what the actual numbers are based on the number of things that were rendered. So this is rendering it with Markdown. The other thing you can do in PixieBrix is we can actually just actually render it as a table. And so I'll just show that one quickly. see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my render Markdown brick. Instead of remembering Markdown, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a custom table here. So this is a customizable table. What this takes is it takes the list of results. I'm going to pass in my results, and then it takes in some different information about what columns I want. So I'm just going to call this one search result, and the text that I want on this column is going to be the title, and then the link, which is in programming terminology is called the href, back from like the web like the kind of web page APIs. If you ever made like a web page where you've written like an anchor tag, those A tags, right? They use href there. So I'm going to say I want the link property for this. And now instead of having that list, I'm going to have just like a search result table over there. And so we'll be adding some in the coming weeks. We'll be adding some more features for customizing the look and feel and be able to sort and filter that table live in the sidebar.
Cool.
Great. So wanted to do a quick time check. I still have a lot of cool stuff we can show. I think the next
go ahead, Todd.
Great.
But maybe we can take some questions because we have a lot of them. So I'll just take them from an end and then you can answer them. And then we will build more after the questions. So make sure if you're out there, stay tuned. We will get back to the building after the questions. S asks, can we use WebSocket on the sidebar?
You can't use WebSockets directly, but what you can do is we do support embedding an iframe into the sidebar. So one of those renders that we have is just delete these here. And one of those escape hatches that we have is you can embed any website that allows being embedded as an iframe. You can embed as an iframe. And you can dynamically set what that URL is that you're going to embed. So if you are working with WebSockets or other things, that might be a good way to go, is just sort of set up a simple server or like set something up that does that connection for you, and then you just render that kind of as a sub panel within the larger panel. Cool. And then in the future, we will be adding kind of on our roadmap, we will be adding support for like notifications and webhooks and be able to respond to those in PixieBrix as well. That's often kind of one of those use cases for WebSockets, is sort of getting those push notifications.
Cool. And I think we got a fan here. S is saying that this is really cool and awesome, and a no-code, low-code Chrome extension builder. And I think you already covered that, but let's repeat it. Is there a way to import-export a workflow? Like, say you want to share it with your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's once I have saved this, and I'll go ahead and make this one here. So once I save this, I can do a couple things. So if I go back to what we call our extension console, I can go ahead and find the thing that I've been working on. So in this case, the MS Power Automate sidebar. And then all I need to do is click share. And then I can choose who I want to share it with. So I have kind of my own, but I can also share like my own personal scope. Because what I'm doing here is I'm giving it kind of an official name, an identifier, and then also a version number, so that people can know what version they're on and get updates to it as I update it. And so let's say I want to go ahead and actually share this with my team. So then you're going to show me kind of, I can share it publicly. You can see here that it's automatically shared with my team. I can get a share link that I can email around to send this out to. And then also on our Teams plan, again, it's free for small teams. You can actually set things up to automatically roll out to different users as well. So the way that companies use this in enterprise is that you might have kind of a handful of developers build things, or maybe you have citizen developers building things. They'll create things, share things within their internal marketplaces. But if you want to roll things out at enterprise scale, what we provide is an admin console. And I'll actually go ahead and open that up. We provide an admin console where you can track who are the different members of your organization, create permissions groups for those, automatically roll things out, different sets of capabilities out to different users. We have service accounts, so we have a full API in terms of managing users, managing kind of who has access to what, as well as in the next section also be showing kind of our team database functionality to actually share information across users within your extensions. And then we also have telemetry as well, which shows kind of utilization, so how frequently are the extensions being run, as well as getting any error telemetry that might be coming through, so you know how many users are impacted. I don't know if I have any deployed right now, but how many, yeah, you can see that on this demo account, I don't have anything running, but how many users are impacted, what is the engagement? You can set up alerting for that as well. So it's really a way to create extensions for yourself and for your teams in a few clicks, and then roll those out and monitor those as well without having to have any DevOps experience.
That's really, really cool, Todd. I will continue with the questions, and if you out there watching, there will be more live build in a few minutes. Is there a brick for the Notion API?
Let's check. I think there is one. We've used it internally because we use Notion internally, so we send stuff over there. I don't know if there's anything I don't think there's anything in the marketplace yet. I know there's definitely folks using us for that, and I think they just craft the API call themselves. But if that's something you're interested in, definitely check out either probably the community Slack is the best place to reach out, and we'll get you connected with that, because that's definitely a use case that we use internally. I think we just haven't put it into the marketplace yet as a made brick.
And the Slack that Todd talks about here is the PixieBrix Slack, which you can find. There's a link to that in the description. It's quite unique. Todd is there helping himself. So if you have any questions to PixieBrix, something that you want to build, there's a lot of people that can help you there, including Todd.
Great. Yeah, and that's it's in the live stream notes as Anders mentioned, as well as if you just go to PixieBrix.com, there's a Slack icon at the bottom that will take you there. It's just slack.pixiebrix.com.
Cool. And there's another question. So if we fetch a list from an API, we can list them with Markdown brick with a loop.
Yep. Yeah. So what I showed in this, what I just showed was within Markdown using text templating as a way to loop over it. Our document builder also provides a, if I hop into this, you can also, if you want to, I'll go ahead and delete this. We also have a list that can actually repeat elements. And so in this case, I'm just going to hard code things in, but let's say ABC 3. I can actually repeat elements for things as well. And so I can switch things out in terms of, let's say for each thing that appears in this list, I actually want to show a card, for example, and I want the header of that card to be the element that's coming through. So you really have a lot of flexibility in terms of, and then even inside of here, I can add additional things. So maybe I want to do an API call for each one of these. Maybe I want to add a button into each one of these. There's really a lot of options for how you want to wire these up. I think using this list element is a pretty popular way to kind of show. I know we have folks using us for Trello or other things where you want to fetch from the Trello API. What are the list of I think Trello calls them columns or lists within a board, and so you can have sort of a separate card for each one of those with separate actions or separate results. And so the three main ways within a panel that you would do looping are either within a text brick or a Markdown brick, just using that nunjux text templating language to do the loop. The other way would be that table brick, that customizable table brick that I was showing. And then the third way is using this list element in order to create document elements for each one in there.
That's so cool, Todd. We'll take the last two questions and then we will move on to see you build. S says, how can we shortcut show hide the sidebar?
Yep. So we don't have a built-in shortcut for that, but you can actually, I guess you could create your own. So there is a let me add a trigger here. So triggers in PixieBrix are, I'll just show this just to kind of demonstrate the bricks for showing and hiding the sidebar. So triggers are a way to respond to different events. And so they can be things like the page loading or navigating. You can run them at a given interval. You can do things based on when the user clicks on something, changes the value. You can also do keyboard triggers. And so what you can tie up to that, though, is we do have we have kind of the show sidebar and then also the hide sidebar brick. And so what I could do is I could wire this up with a hide sidebar event. So when I run this trigger, what it's going to do is it's going to hide the sidebar. Or if I like the show sidebar case, right, I could also run this trigger to show the sidebar. And so the way that we've seen companies use this is kind of automatically kind of on page navigation or on a given event, kind of check to see if there's anything interesting that would be in the sidebar. So maybe has someone added notes to the page. People use us for kind of process accuracy as well. So maybe they have sort of, the team maintains like a Google sheet of different information. And so they cross-reference that Google sheet. And if there's some information in that Google sheet about the page, it automatically shows that sidebar with the information from that Google sheet row. And so there's a lot of fun ways that you can apply that. I think right now the quickest way is probably either you can set up your own triggers. You can also toggle the sidebar up here as well. But yeah, that's a great idea also for us to add a native keyboard shortcut control for it as well.
Cool. Thanks, S, for all the great questions. And PixieBrix is here with us as well. They ask a question. Todd, are you ready for that?
Maybe. Who is it?
Hello, PixieBrix, and welcome. PixieBrix says, which brick can I use to craft an API call myself?
Yep. Yeah, that's a great question. So the main one that you would use is this HTTP request brick. And so if I add it here, you can see that it has a URL field. I can pass different parameters to it or the data to it, and I can choose, is it a get? Is it a post? Is it a put? Is it a delete? Is it a patch, which is an update? And so this one is going to be, the HTTP request one is going to be the one that you can use to call any API. And then if you're just kind of fetching data from something, we do have just the HTTP get brick. But often kind of this HTTP request one will do everything that you need. And so you can just supply the URL. And then also, if you are making a call to an authenticated API, PixieBrix supports what we call integrations, where you can select just kind of which pre-configured integration that you want to use to actually authenticate that request. And then, so if I share that with my team, instead of having hard-coded credentials in there, the team member will be prompted to select their own service integration to be used to authenticate the request.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, definitely for things like Notion, I think people have been using that. I think we don't currently have any Power Automate bricks pre-made in the workshop, but people definitely use this to trigger different Power Automate workflows or fetch information from Power Automate.
Cool. And let's get back to the building, Todd. You had a few more things that you wanted to show us today, right?
Great. Yeah, I think the last thing that I'll show is, so for those just tuning in, what we had created was this create flashcard button that when I select something, I can go ahead and create a flashcard. And then if I click create card, it's going to save it off to a Google Sheet. But often what I find also is it's really helpful to be able to take notes on any page. And so what I'm going to do in this case is I'm actually going to embed a notes field directly into my sidebar so that I can see the notes that are available on this page. So in this, previously what we had done just for the other demo of kind of automatically pulling search results, what I did one is I changed this to selection change. I'm actually going to change this back to page load and navigation, because instead of having notes about a given selection, I'm going to have my notes be about the given page that I'm on. So I'm going to hop back to my document. And I already have a row down here. I'll go ahead and clean up this list element here. And I'm going to go ahead and add another brick element because I'm going to be doing some dynamic things. And so I have this brick section down here. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add we call the context reader. And what the context reader does is it just fetches information around kind of what is the current URL and like what's the current timestamp. And so the reason I'm doing this is because I can actually navigate on this page, right? So I can select a different unit or I can do other things. I actually want to base what I'm viewing based on what the current URL is, not the URL at the time that the sidebar was originally rendered, which is this URL here. So what I'm going to do is make sure I have the latest URL because that's going to be what I base my notes on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a custom form element. And so what the custom form element does is it allows me to embed a form into my sidebar and wire it up to different state. And so what it defaults to is it defaults to what's called the state of my extension. What I do in this case is I'm actually going to wire it up to a team database so that other people on my team can actually see the notes because maybe we're doing some learning together as part of it. Or just if I'm going across different browsers, I actually want it to persist across my different browsing sessions. And so to do this, what I'm going to do is, let's go ahead and go back to the admin console. And I'm going to go to the databases tab, and I'm going to create a new database for me to store information in for this form. So I'm going to call this my MS Power Automate notes. Create database. So now I have this database here that doesn't have any records in it, and I can see that there's no information in there. So if I hop back here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this over to database, and then I'm going to, from the database dropdown, I'm going to select my MS Power Automate Notes database. And then what I'm going to do is, so I've set up kind of where is this going to be, where is this information going to be stored? And then you can see here there's a field for the record ID, which is what is the kind of the unique identifier for the database record that this particular field is going to be attached to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that URL, because I want all my notes, in this case, I just want my notes to be referenced based on kind of what the URL of the page is. And I'm going to paste that in. So I'm going to base this on kind of what page am I looking at. So now if I render this, we have a notes field here. And I'm going to go ahead and you can see here also this particular one happens to default to notes. But I have all my different form editing capabilities like we saw with the flashcards. I can always go ahead and change this to my notes. And then in the field description, I can say, for example, my notes for, and use that text templating. Right, so I can see that these are my notes for this particular module down here. And so if I switch to a different module, so like maybe monitoring incoming emails, should see that change. Oh, there's something. Yeah, so that's changing there. So I can see that this changes here. So now what I'm going to do also is I'm going to change kind of what is my confirmation message. So I'm going to change this to saved successfully. Save note. See here when I have auto render mode turned off, PixieBrix is going to warn me when sort of what I'm seeing up here is different than kind of what I've already configured down here, right? Just to remind me that kind of what I'm seeing up here is a little bit out of date because I haven't refreshed things yet. So now if I go ahead and save something, let's go ahead and say recurring flows are cool. Click submit. I get my successfully saved note message. And if I hop over to a lot of tabs, don't know where they came from. Let's open up that admin console and hop over to my databases. And my MS Power Automates note, you'll see now I have one record in here, right? And it was written 16 seconds ago. And now I have my note that says the ID of the record is that URL. I can see what time it was created at, and I can see my note that I captured for that particular URL. And so what's cool about this is this persists, right? So if I kind of hop over to a different unit, so maybe I hop over to creating my first flows. I think one thing I did notice while I was prepping for this demo is, so if there isn't any information provided, it just sort of defaults over to the last thing that was shown in that particular form. So you can see here that it's empty here. But what I actually need to do also is sort of set a default field value so that when I'm switching back and forth, it doesn't go here. So like enter some.
I have 2 questions to the database part, Todd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the database part of the free version?
Yep. Yeah, the database part is part of the free version. There is like a cap on how many records that you would hit, but you would never hit that cap using it for use cases like this. I think some companies use us also for doing some like process mining sort of things. So how often do certain things happen, or kind of monitoring different flows. And so those are the ones that tend to kind of fill it up. But if you're an individual or a small team for these sorts of use cases, like you would never hit that maximum.
Cool, thanks, Catalog Addict. Catalog Addict also asks, can we get the current user to the database?
Sorry, could you ask that again?
Can we get the current user to the database?
Oh, the current user of who submitted it?
Yeah.
So you can. So we don't currently in the database track who wrote the record. What you could do is in here, for this particular one, so we also have Brix for directly adding data to the database. In this case, what I'll do though is let's get my current username off of here. And so we have a reader called the PixieBrix session reader that what it does is it grabs kind of who am I? So what is my email? What am I authenticated against? Some information around kind of this particular page session. So in terms of when I started, a unique identifier for like when I first visited this page. So let me grab this email here, and then in this form, what I can do is I can let's add a field here for email. Change the input type over to email, and then for the default value, I could always just drop in what is that, right? And so now it's going to default to my email address. And then that's going to get synced. So if I save this right now in my database, if I hop back there, again, way too many tabs, I'll see that my email is flowing through there.
Cool. Great answer, Todd. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and we have different, once I have this, I can also export things. So I can export things in JSON, CSV. We also have ways to export through Excel. These databases also, we do have a developer API, so I can go ahead and create a service account, and then I can actually programmatically add records to these databases or extract information out of those databases. So there's a lot of fun use cases that you can use once you add databases in. And actually the live stream that we're doing tomorrow is all focused on collaboration. So we're going to be touching quite a bit on databases. And
what Todd is talking about here is that we are back tomorrow with an even better live stream. I can promise you that.
I don't know. This one's pretty good. I really like sidebars.
Yeah.
But yeah, collaboration is cool too. But I don't know. Creating sidebars for myself is a lot of fun.
Cool. And Todd, we have more questions. Is it possible to display only the message once on the sidebar? So if the user refresh twice, it won't display again.
Yeah. So there are a couple ways to do that. But maybe need a little bit more context for your use case. But what you can do is, if you want to cancel out a whole panel, or you want to like conditionally render certain parts, there's a few things you can do. So let's say that in some cases I don't want to show the panel. we have a cancel current action brick that I could just add here. And I could just say, you refreshed twice. And so you can kind of see what this is going to look like, right? So it says panel not available, you've refreshed twice. And we have this condition field here, so I can set whether or not that panel is going to show. And so depending on your use case in terms of when you want the panel to be available or not, you could keep track, for example, of whether or not the user has taken a certain action or whether or not certain information would be available. And then you could add that to this condition here.
Really cool. Can we make some of the fields of the form hidden? For example, the email field?
Yeah, we don't currently support that in the page editor. I think that's something where it's on our list and we get asked that. So that's yeah. If you reach out in the community Slack, we will teach you or we'll show you how to do that. It's just not available in the page editor yet.
Cool.
And yeah, the page editor. Yeah, the platform is very powerful, and so sometimes it takes a little bit for some of the features to get into the point and click aspect of the tool.
Yeah, and to us, the Slack Todd is talking about is the PixieBrix community Slack, which is active, and you can get help to all PixieBrix questions. And the link will be down below in this video here. Cool. Todd, we are about to come to an end. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here on the stream and see you again tomorrow.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And thanks everyone for the fantastic questions. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of great questions. Thanks to all the viewers out there, and hopefully see you tomorrow with Todd, PixieBrix